Hello there, beautiful friends from all around the world. I am your host, Blackenfist. Now, as many of you have already known, me and Qaaman got into a little debate on who is stronger, Tien Shinhan or Krillin. Qaaman sided on the side of Tien Shinhan and I did on Krillin. Now, the reason I decided to make this video was because Qaaman did make a video about this subject before on his beliefs on why he thinks Tien Shinhan is stronger, and I thought, why not make my own video about why I think Krillin is the strongest human in Dragon Ball. Now, I know that many of you guys will think that I'm crazy for thinking that Krillin is the strongest human, but I really want you guys to hear me out. I know I'm not going to convince everybody, but I feel that I really do have good reasons to believe what I believe. As has been pointed out before, Tien Shinhan was the stronger of the two in the beginning of Z. That was all until Krillin made his trip to planet Namek. On Namek, Krillin had his potential unlocked by Guru. At this point in the series, Krillin was stronger than Tien Shinhan, and quite honestly, I don't think Tien Shinhan ever caught up. Let me explain. One thing you have to realize is that Tien Shinhan died in the Saiyan Saga, meaning that he missed a lot of important events in the living world in which he would have been fighting otherwise or training. Now, a lot of people like to bring this up. The fact that Tien Shinhan did go up to King Kai's planet and fight the Ginyu Force. However, guys, there's a very good reason why Qaaman in the debate we had did not bring this point up, but I do see a lot of people bringing this up. It's because this never happened in the manga. What you have to make clear, guys, is that in the manga, Tien Shinhan never trained when he was dead. He never went to King Kai's planet, and he never fought the Ginyu Force. So one thing you have to understand is that when Tien Shinhan was wished back into the living world again, the Tien Shinhan that we're seeing right there is about as strong as he was at the end of the Saiyan Saga when he died. And that is a huge gap. An enormous gap between him and Krillin, because Krillin is way stronger than the Saiyan Saga version of Tien Shinhan, which Tien was at that time. So, we go into the Android Saga. Both Krillin and Tien Shinhan start their training, but Krillin already has an enormous advantage over Tien Shinhan because he had been fighting on Namek, and not only that, he also had his potential unlocked, while Tien Shinhan had pretty much been out of commission this entire time and had an enormous disadvantage. So there's no doubt that both Krillin and Tien Shinhan got stronger in this 3-year period of training. However, it is very unlikely that Tien Shinhan, with Krillin training as well in this 3-year period, could have surpassed Krillin at this point, because Krillin was still very much active. If anything, I think the gap would have increased. Of course, that is only my own assumption. I cannot prove that. But by no means could Tien Shinhan have closed the gap within this period. Meaning the Krillin that we see in the Android and Cell stuff is also stronger than Tien Shinhan. This is a very crucial point, because a lot of the evidence for Tien Shinhan being stronger is in the Android and Cell stuff. More notably, the fact that Tien Shinhan did the Tri-Beam against Semi-Perfect Cell. Now, I could talk a lot about this situation on its own, but I will try to shorten this up short and sweet. Tien Shinhan caught Cell with a Tri-Beam cannon. It's very important to note that Tien Shinhan was not hurting Cell. Now, a lot of people will actually try to dispute me on this. What I mean by not hurting Cell is I mean he's not really damaging Cell at all. He might, yes, be hurting him and pushing him back, but he is doing no damage. This is evidenced as when Tien Shinhan finally ran out of energy, Cell was perfectly fine. But one thing that I find really funny is that this is evidence to show that somehow Tien Shinhan is stronger than Krillin. This I do not get, because Semi-Perfect Cell is way stronger than Tien Shinhan and Krillin. So how could Semi-Perfect Cell be a good reference point? I could argue that Krillin could do a Destructo Disc on Cell and maybe cut Cell's arm off, and in my opinion that will be doing more damage than what Tien did with his Tri-Beam. But would that really prove that Krillin is stronger than Tien Shinhan? I don't think so. And the other point of contention was the interaction that Krillin had with Semi-Perfect Cell. My argument is pretty damn simple. Tien Shinhan and Krillin are both way weaker than Semi-Perfect Cell, and if Tien Shinhan was in that position that Krillin was in, the same thing would have happened. Saying that Krillin got blown off by Cell so easily, and that somehow meaning something, is like saying that in the Buu saga, Tien Shinhan getting blown off by Buu so easily also means something when it doesn't. Both of these characters, Semi-Perfect Cell and Buu, are so far beyond Krillin and Tien that they're not really a good reference point. So I think this is a pretty open and shut case. Krillin was stronger in the Android and Cell saga because he did have a massive advantage over Tien Shinhan in the beginning of it before they started training. And not to mention that when Tien Shinhan was wished back, he was pretty much around the same strength he was when he died in the Saiyan saga. That is a huge disadvantage. Then we move on to the Buu saga. And for me, it's pretty clear that before this point, it's pretty easily to determine that Krillin is the strongest. But in the Buu saga, this is, I think, the only chance where Tien Shinhan can close the gap and become stronger. This is why. This is the saga that we can assume that Krillin wasn't training as much during this time, and we can assume that Tien Shinhan probably was training his ass off. Now, even if we assume all this, and we do say that Krillin was slacking off, and Tien Shinhan trained his ass off, that still doesn't mean that Tien Shinhan would have closed the gap between them, because Krillin already had a head start. And this is really the only period in Dragon Ball Z where I do feel that Tien Shinhan could close the gap between himself and Krillin. But this is all based on what you assume, guys, because we didn't see what happened during this period. So whether you are on each side, by the Buu saga, you have to understand that the gap between Krillin and Tien Shinhan is very small. In fact, if Tien Shinhan and Krillin were to fight, both of them would have had a good chance to win. But here's the thing. While you have to assume that Tien Shinhan trained his ass off to close the gap and become stronger than Krillin, there is one piece of circumstantial evidence going for the side of Krillin. I mentioned this before, that Yamcha was talking to Krillin's daughter Marin, and in that conversation, Yamcha pretty much said that Krillin is the strongest human in the world. So this is a statement made in the Buu saga, which is, I think, the most contested saga. And although some people might discredit Yamcha here, I do think that his word means something. He is still a very powerful guy, and he, unlike Semi-Perfect Cell or Buu, can gauge both of these guys. And in his own estimation, he would say Krillin is the strongest. So after looking at all that, I would say that Krillin is definitely stronger. It may be by a little, but I would definitely say with all the evidence. But there's still one more crucial piece of evidence for Krillin's camp, and that is the statements made by Akira Toriyama. Toriyama basically says that Krillin is the strongest Earthling. Now there's also going to be people saying that Tien Shinhan is not human. And to that, I actually want to quote Toriyama on this directly. Something that I did not do in the debate because I didn't have the quote in front of me. But I quote Toriyama. Kuden was originally supposed to be just a minor role, so I have him become Goku's best friend in the blink of an eye. The interviewer. Well, he is the strongest Earthling male. Toriyama. You're right, he is the strongest among the Earthlings. But in spite of that, he tends to end up in a bad way. So I thought, once in a while, I have to let him be happy, and had him get married. Laughs. End quote. Now I do think that this quote is very important, Because even if Tien Shinhan is not human, notice the wording there. He says, Earthlings. Whether Tien Shinhan is human or not, Tien Shinhan is an Earthling. The Daizenshuu says that Tien Shinhan is part of the Three-Eyed Clan, but the Three-Eyed Clan is listed under the same section of Earthlings. Tien Shinhan is still an Earthling, so whether Tien Shinhan is human or not doesn't really matter. So I think I've made my position pretty clear. I hope I maybe convinced some of you that Krillin is stronger, but I do understand that there will still be people that will think Tien Shinhan is still stronger, and that's alright. But the one thing that I wanted to make clear, even to people that think that Tien Shinhan is stronger, is that this is not really a ridiculous comparison, as some people were saying. Both of these guys are very, very close. Whatever side you are on, the guy who's stronger isn't stronger by a lot. So if you guys actually are interested in hearing the debate that me and Qaaman had, the link will be in the description. I think it was a great debate, and I hope to do more with Qaaman. However, there's one more thing I'd like to address, and that is the anime. Everything that I've said to this point only applies to the manga. In the anime, there is a lot of filler scenes where you see Tien doing certain types of training regimens, and most importantly, you see Tien travel to King Kai's planet and fight the Ginyu Force and beat them. That scene alone, that one scene, unbalances everything. It is pretty clear to me that in the anime, Tien Shinhan is stronger. And this actually brings up things about what exactly is canon. So, in the so-called anime canon, Tien Shinhan is stronger than another character, and in the anime, I would argue that Tien Shinhan is stronger than Krillin by a lot. While in the manga, Krillin is stronger, but only by a very small margin. This brings up exactly how different these things can be and what exactly is canon in Dragon Ball. Well guys, that actually ties in to my next video. So I hope you stay tuned, but until then guys, I am Blackenfist, and I'm out, man.